Let me be honest with you about something most men completely miss. You're watching her move on. She's with someone new, and you're probably sitting there thinking it's over, that she's forgotten you, that whatever you had means nothing now. You're wrong, and I'm gonna tell you why from a woman's perspective. There's something happening in her mind right now, something she'd never admit to him, something she might not even admit to herself, and it has everything to do with you. See, when a woman enters a new relationship, her brain starts doing something automatic, something she can't control, and most men have no idea this is happening, which is why they make the one mistake that destroys everything. They panic. They reach out. They try to remind her they exist. And in doing that, they kill the very thing that was working in their favor. I'm going to show you exactly what's going on inside her head. The 5 specific moments when you're dominating her thoughts without even trying, including one that happens during intimacy that changes everything. But more importantly, I'm going to show you why doing nothing right now might be the most powerful move you've ever made. Stay with me on this one. Here's what's actually happening in her brain right now. When a woman enters a new relationship, her mind doesn't start fresh. It can't. That's not how memory works. Every experience she has with him gets filtered through something called a comparison baseline. And that baseline, it's built from every significant relationship she's had before, including yours. This isn't something she chooses. It's not even something she's aware of most of the time. It's automatic. Hardwired. Her brain is constantly asking one question without her permission. How does this compare? And here's where it gets interesting. Emotional memory doesn't work like factual memory. You don't remember facts about how someone made you feel. You remember the feeling itself, the warmth, the excitement, the safety, the chaos, whatever it was, that emotional imprint stays. So when she's sitting across from him at dinner, laughing at something he said, part of her brain is running a background process, measuring, comparing, not his jokes to your jokes. That's too surface level. She's comparing how she feels right now to how she felt before. And if you made her feel something real, something deep, that becomes the standard everything else gets measured against. Not because she wants it to, because she can't help it. Most men don't understand this. They think moving on means erasing. They think a new relationship replaces the old one like updating software. It doesn't work that way. A new relationship doesn't delete you from her system. It highlights you. Every difference between you and him becomes a data point. Every similarity triggers a memory. Every moment of intimacy opens a door she thought she'd closed. The longer she's with him, the more comparisons she collects, the more data points, the more moments where something he does or doesn't do reminds her of something you did or didn't do. And this is where most men make a critical mistake. They assume her moving on means they've lost, that the new guy has won, that she's happy now and they're forgotten. But comparison doesn't stop just because she's smiling in photos. In fact, the honeymoon phase makes it worse. Because when everything feels new and exciting with him, her brain has even more reason to compare, to check, to measure. So when does this comparison hit her hardest? When does she think about you the most? That's what we need to talk about next. There are 5 specific moments when you dominate her thoughts, 5 situations where comparison becomes impossible to ignore. And they happen more often than you'd expect. The first moment is when he does something you did differently. It could be small. The way he orders food, the way he drives, the way he responds when she's upset. Whatever it is, if you did it differently, her brain flags it. Not as better or worse, just different. And different triggers memory. She might not even realize it's happening, She'll just feel something shift. A flicker of thought. A half second where you appear in her mind uninvited. The second moment is during conflict. This one's powerful. When they argue, when tension rises, when things get uncomfortable, her brain starts looking for alternatives. Not consciously, but somewhere in the background, a question forms. Was it like this before? If you were someone who handled conflict differently, calmer, more grounded, more present, you become the peaceful alternative in her mind. The contrast to what she's feeling right now. And she won't tell him that. She'll barely admit it to herself. But you're there. In the room. During every fight. The third moment is when she tries to explain her past. At some point, she'll have to talk about you. Maybe he asks. Maybe it comes up naturally. Maybe a friend mentions your name. But the moment she starts describing what you had, she has to revisit it. And here's what most men don't realize. You can't describe something without feeling it again. Even a little bow. When she tells him about you, she's not just recounting facts. She's reopening files, accessing emotions she thought she'd archived. She might keep it short. She might downplay it. But in that moment, while she's choosing her words carefully, trying to make it sound like nothing, her brain is replaying everything. The good parts, the intense parts, the parts she'll never tell him about, and the way she describes you, that tells her something about herself, about what she valued, about what she lost. The fourth moment is when something triggers a shared memory. A song, a place, a phrase, a smell, a restaurant you used to go to, a movie you watched together. Memory triggers are everywhere, and they don't care about her current relationship status. She could be perfectly happy with him, sitting in his car, feeling content. And then a song comes on that you both used to listen to. And suddenly, you're there. Not as a thought she chose, as an invasion she couldn't prevent. She might change the station. She might look out the window. But for that moment, you existed in her present tense. You were more real than the man sitting next to her. These triggers don't fade quickly. They stack. The more history you shared, the more landmines exist in her everyday life. The more ordinary moments become loaded with memory. The fifth moment is the most powerful, and it's the one most men never consider. It happens during intimacy. When she's physically close to him. When things get vulnerable. When walls come down. That's when comparison becomes unavoidable. Because intimacy isn't just physical. It's emotional. It's psychological. And her brain doesn't separate those wires cleanly. Every intimate moment with him carries an echo of intimate moments with you. The way you touched her. The way you made her feel. The things that happened between you that she's never told anyone. Those memories don't disappear because someone new is holding her. In fact, they become louder. But here's what makes this fifth moment different from all the others. Here's why it changes everything. I need to explain what's actually happening in her mind during those intimate moments. Because most men have no idea how deep this comparison runs, or why it creates something she can't escape. Let me break that down. What I'm about to explain is the part most videos skip. Most content about exes and new relationships stays surface level. This goes deeper. When a woman is intimate with someone new, her brain doesn't just experience the present moment. It accesses the past. Automatically. Without permission. Here's why. Physical intimacy isn't isolated. It's connected to emotional memory in ways that can't be separated. The brain doesn't file these experiences in different folders. They're woven together. So when she's close to him, vulnerable with him, letting her walls down, her mind starts pulling files she didn't ask for. Sensations. Feelings. echoes of what came before. And if you were someone she was truly intimate with, not just physically, emotionally, psychologically, those memories don't stay quiet. They become the ghost in the room she can't see but can't ignore. Here's what makes this so powerful. During intimacy, comparison isn't just mental. It's physical. It's emotional. It's all three at once. Her body remembers things her conscious mind tries to forget. The way certain touches felt. The way certain moments unfolded. The specific things that happened between you that exist nowhere else in her history. And when something with him triggers a memory of something with you, she feels it. Not just thinks it, feels it. Now here's the part that creates real psychological weight. She feels guilty for comparing. She's with someone new. She's trying to move forward. She's doing everything right on the surface. And yet, in her most vulnerable moments, you show up, uninvited, unwanted, but undeniable. That guilt doesn't make the comparison stop. It makes it more intense. Because now she's not just comparing, she's fighting the comparison. And the harder you fight something, the more power you give it. This is the intimacy trap. The more she tries to be present with him, the more her mind wanders to you. The more she pushes the memory away, the stronger it comes back. The more she tells herself it doesn't matter, the more evidence she collects that it does. And here's what most men never understand. She won't tell anyone this is happening. Not him. Not her friends. Maybe not even herself fully. Because admitting it would mean admitting something she's not ready to face. That what you had might have been more significant than she wanted it to be. So it stays internal. It stays silent. It becomes this thing she carries that influences everything without ever being spoken. But here's where most men destroy this advantage completely. Without even knowing they're doing it. There's a set of behaviors, a pattern that almost every man falls into after watching her move on, that erases everything I just described. That takes this psychological dynamic working in your favor and turns it into nothing. Let me show you what kills this effect. And what amplifies it. Here's what destroys everything. The moment you reach out. The moment you text her asking how she's doing. The moment you like her photo, comment on her post, or find some excuse to remind her you exist. That's the moment you erase yourself from her mind. Not because she forgets you, but because you replace the version of you she was holding on to. Let me explain. Right now, in her memory, you exist as a certain version of yourself. The version from when things were good. The version she felt something with. The version that created those comparison moments we just talked about. That version is frozen in time. It doesn't age. It doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't send desperate texts at 2 a.m. It just exists, preserved, in her emotional memory. And every time she compares him to you, she's comparing him to that version. But the second you reach out from a place of need, the second you show her you're watching, waiting, hoping, you unfreeze yourself. You update her memory with a new version, a weaker version, a version that's chasing instead of being chased. And that new version overwrites the old one. This is why silence is so powerful. Your silence doesn't make her forget you. It preserves you. It keeps that idealized version intact. It lets the comparison continue without interference. Every day you don't reach out is a day that version of you stays frozen, stays strong, stays the standard she measures him against. But here's what amplifies this effect even more. It's not just about what you don't do. It's about what she sees you doing without her. If she checks your social media, which she will, and she sees you living, growing, moving forward without falling apart, that amplifies everything. Because now she's not just comparing him to who you were. She's comparing him to who you're becoming. And she's not part of that. That's the moment comparison turns into something else. Regret. She starts wondering if she made the right choice. She starts questioning whether what she has now is really better. She starts looking at her new relationship through a different lens. Not the lens of excitement. The lens of doubt. And that doubt, it doesn't go away. It grows every time she sees you thriving. Every time she hears you're doing well. Every time she realizes you're not sitting around waiting for her. That doubt becomes a question she can't stop asking. The question that leads to something most men don't understand. The realization moment. Let me tell you when it happens. And what it looks like. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember this. The realization moment doesn't happen immediately. It follows a timeline. And that timeline works in your favor if you understand it. Here's how it unfolds. First, there's the honeymoon phase. Everything with him feels new, exciting, fresh. She's focused on what's in front of her. The comparisons are there, but they're quiet. Background noise. Then the honeymoon phase ends. And it always ends. The excitement fades. The novelty wears off. The relationship becomes real instead of romantic. And that's when the comparison volume turns up. Because now she's not comparing him at his best to you at your best. She's comparing him at his normal to you at your best. And that's not a fair fight. This is when doubt starts to settle in. Small things bother her that didn't before. Differences that seemed interesting now seem like problems. The things she told herself didn't matter start to matter. And through all of this, you're still there. In her mind. Frozen in time. Unchanged. Unaged. Still the version she remembers from when things were good. The realization moment happens when she finally connects the dots. When she looks at what she has now and asks herself a question she's been avoiding. What if what I had before was actually better? What if I made a mistake? That's not a thought she wants to have. It's a thought that forces itself on her. After enough comparisons, after enough doubt, after enough time with someone who doesn't measure up to the standard you set. And here's the truth most men don't want to hear. This realization often comes too late. After months, sometimes years, after she's already committed to something that doesn't feel right but feels too far along to leave. She won't tell you when it happens. She might not even fully admit it to herself. But it happens, more often than you'd think. The comparison you created doesn't have an expiration date. It sits there, waiting, growing, until the day she finally realizes what she actually lost. But here's what this really means for you. Here's the final piece. Most men miss completely. Here's the final truth. The one that changes how you see all of this. She's not comparing him to you. She's comparing who she is with him to who she was with you. That's the real comparison happening. Not between two men. Between two versions of herself. How did she feel about herself when she was with you? Was she more confident? More alive? More secure? More desired? Or was she anxious, uncertain, constantly guessing? The answer to that question determines everything. If you made her feel like the best version of herself, that's what she measures every new relationship against. Not the man. The feeling. The identity. The woman she got to be when she was yours. And no new man can give her that. Because it wasn't about him then, and it's not about him now. It's about her, and who she becomes in the presence of certain people. That's why your silence matters. That's why your growth matters. That's why not chasing her is the most powerful thing you can do. Because every day you don't reach out, you protect that feeling she had. You preserve the version of herself she remembers being. You let that comparison keep working without contamination. So here's what I want you to take from this. You haven't lost anything. The comparison is happening. The doubt will come. The realization is inevitable if you don't destroy it yourself. Your only job right now is to let time do its work, and to become someone even better than the version she's remembering. I want to hear from you. Have you experienced this? Has she come back after moving on with someone else? Or are you in the middle of this right now, wondering if any of this is actually happening in her mind? Drop a comment. Tell me your situation. I read every single one, because this isn't just about one video or one relationship. This is about understanding how attraction actually works, how memory works, how women think about men long after the relationship ends. And the more you understand that, the less power any of this has over you. You're not the one waiting anymore. You're the one being remembered.